Wish it would have rained, but...
Do you think a fly could work its way up to being a human?
A human? Over a millennia, possibly. No, I honestly have no idea, dog. I don't know how fucking insect spirit works. Because what are they, really? Are they a spirit? Because, I mean, they are part of this earth and stuff, but they're so, like... I feel like they're different than even animals, insects. That maybe they're, like,
different,
the
like
lowest of the...
A weaker way, like...
Yeah, like...
Bad?
Yeah.
Base?
They really are just, like...
They're basic.
You a basic bitch, fly. But I don't know. But then, if you think about it, their reincarnation would be crazy too, because if they die every day, couldn't they come back almost every day too?
Yeah.
Would they learn something every day? Maybe. I don't know.
Or they just filler.
We have so much more to talk about than fly reincarnations. Let's get on it.
This is what people want to know.
I guess. All right.
I've been reading the fan mail.
I've read the fan mail, and people are digging it, but people need to put more input. I guess I'll show you later, but there are questions now on our tracks for you listeners. You can now interact with us. I've put questions or things on our tracks that you can kind of comment back and stuff. So, anyways, I personally... Is there anything just super dire you want to get into? Because I have all my shit on a list, so if there's anything on your mind you need to start talking about, I understand.
No, we could go with one of yours.
All right.
Just start it.
Let's do Hollow Earth, because I think it's an intriguing, and because that's going to be able to, we're going to be able to transition to a few topics from there. I want to talk about Admiral Byrd. You know about him, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. So I find him very intriguing and stuff, and I think it's dope. I finally got the...
Who was he with again? The Air Force?
Yeah, he was a Army pilot. So basically,
Army.
they had a operation called Operation High Jump back in the 40s. The Germans went down to Antarctica. I think they were onto something. They were looking for a hidden city and stuff. Like, that was kind of Hitler's underlining goal, honestly. He was wanting to eliminate all the Jews and all these other people that he felt like didn't belong on Earth, and at the same time he was looking for lost cities and lost worlds, because in my cultic belief he found a UFO, and that, not he personally, but when he was in the German military in the 30s, they found a UFO in the Black Forest and supposedly talked to a being that was on that ship, and I think it was an Aryan being. And so that brings me to what I'm going to talk about now. They went down to Antarctica and they were looking. I think he was onto something. He maybe found something that pointed him in the direction of Antarctica, because Admiral Byrd, he was a pretty high-ranking officer in the military, and he, I think in a co-pilot, they were scouting or something or other. They're in Antarctica and they're flying into Antarctica, dismount to a mountain range, and I think they got lost or something. But anyways, spirit science. They actually kind of have some of his journal entries, or found out how...
I still have to check that out. You told me that.
Because that's dope. I've never been able to find his journal entries anywhere. But anyways, one of the more intriguing things about the journal entries is he eventually came over into a canyon kind of area in these mountains where it was actually green. And he said there shouldn't have been any green there at all. But it was like a green grass that he'd never really even seen before. It was like almost like a moss that covered these mountains and stuff. And then he saw like vegetation, like trees and shit too, that he'd even never really seen. And then he saw an elephant, but it wasn't just an elephant, it was a mammoth, supposedly. And then they were flying lower, and then he felt something like grab a hold of his ship. I am skipping over some stuff, but basically he got grabbed a hold of, and he started going down into like a lower level, like there's almost like an opening, and then there's like a city inside the mountains, and it was just like a super futuristic looking mountain. When they landed, these beings came up to him, and they were, he said, Scandinavian, like Nordic looking beings, which I think is dope. And they're blonde haired, blue eyed, similar to the Aryan race that Hitler was looking for and stuff. And they basically talked to him and said, like, warned him about nuclear bombs and all that shit, and said how it was going to affect their world as well. And he was supposed to be just a messenger, basically, to the U.S. about their world and stuff. And forget. Like I said, there's other stuff to it. You and I should watch that Hollow Earth video because, like I said, it's super good. It's very intriguing. But there's a lot to Admiral Byrd's story. When he came back to try to expose that, and he tried to show people his journal and stuff, the U.S. basically contained him, and they took his journal and stuff, and they even put him in a psych ward eventually, and that's where he supposedly, jumped out of a window and killed himself.
They quarantined him immediately, too, for like almost 2 days.
Yeah.
In isolation.
Yep, and then, like I said, that's why I was surprised that Spirit Science knew about his journal entries, because I know that was under a pretty tight lock and key.
And then after that, was that before or after the nation signed to that treaty for Antarctica?
I think it was before.
They wouldn't fuck with it.
Oh, fuck.
That no one gets to own it.
It was probably before, I would think, because I would assume they would have brought... Because they said that...
And then they tightened up on it.
Yeah, because there was UFOs that actually attacked the ships, part of Operation High Jumper or whatever, and that was pretty well documented, so that leaked out. So I'm sure it was after they decided not to fuck with that country. But we do fuck with it. We do have even secret bases down there, supposedly. Even according to the Fitbit, they could see people walking in areas in Antarctica that shouldn't have been there.
They've also sensed, I think it was Ancient Aliens, they said they sensed, like, earthquakes inside the Earth that are affecting, you can read it out here.
Oh, okay.
It's coming from, like, the center somehow. It's affecting out here. And that could be just, like, maybe natural events that are happening in the center, if it is hollow.
Yeah. That could be. It just makes you wonder more if they have, like, conflict or if there's just natural disasters, because this brings me kind of to my other subject about the polar shift and stuff. I do think, the polar shift is a very real thing. I bet it affects the inner Earth, too, a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Probably. It's interesting, too, because didn't the Dogon tribe also mention Antarctica, like, as being one of the openings?
Oh, could be. I'm not sure. They do have a lot of interesting things recorded.
Because the Dogon people do believe in the Hollow Earth, too.
Okay.
That's part of their origin.
And so that even ties in. That's kind of what I want to talk about, like Nibiru and the pole shift and stuff. Because do you know much about, like, Nibiru and...
Yeah, I've looked into some of, like, what Zachariah Sitchin kind of talked about, that and the Anunnaki.
Yeah, the Sumerian tablets. That's kind of what I want to talk about, like, Nibiru-wise, is how our galaxy was formed and how I think that affects maybe our pole shift, and that's how our moon was created. Because you know how I told you that I thought maybe the moon was a satellite, because even the Dogon said it was brought here to bring balance to the Earth.
Yeah, and were you the one that told me that you think that the moon's older than the Earth?
Yeah, that's what at least scientists and stuff say. But according to the Sumerian tablets, it honestly would be about the same age as Earth, I would think. So that's the part where I'm kind of torn now, because I'm just going to give a basis to all the listeners on, like, the Sumerian tablets and how they say our universe was, or not our universe, but our galaxy was formed.
Tell me that aliens built the pyramids. It's funny because they probably did.
Fuck I'm doing talking about pineal glands. Fuck I'm doing talking about pineal glands. Ancient ways of Sumerians. Ain't nothing wrong with a righteous man.
This is my Anunnaki flow.